Hey guys, it's TR Perry here, and this is my booktube. So today I want to talk more about, the why behind writing a book, and specifically the why behind why I am writing my book. So a lot of my videos recently have been about the mechanics of, gosh, what does it take to get from point A to point B? How do you write a book? But I wanted to talk a little bit about why am I writing my book, and just kind of the why, because it's really important to know your why. If you don't know your why, then when the going gets tough, you're gonna get going. So I didn't realize this because I can be optimistic a lot of times, but I would be getting advice from different people, such as on YouTube, and I'd be thinking, so how do you write a book? What do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And a lot of times people would be talking about this like inner critic and, this sense of like laziness and just all these different obstacles that can come up when you're writing a book. Obstacles that I didn't even know existed. Insecurities that I didn't really know I had were all of a sudden coming up when I was writing this book. And it just makes you feel like, I want to quit. I will not be successful. Like, this cannot happen. And the truth is that those things are not true. You can do this, you can write this, but you need to have your why. So that is what's going to really help you, in those days when you're just not feeling it and you're like, man, I scheduled time for myself to write today, but I don't want to, and those days when you're like, oh man, I just feel so bad and who's gonna care about this? You're gonna need to have your why. So why am I writing my book? As you may have heard in another video, I began writing my book in the year 2020. And when I started writing it, I just was feeling a lot. Like, the year was insane and I was feeling some things, and honestly there were a couple reasons why I decided to write my book. One was that I was just feeling so emotional and I wanted a place to really write down my thoughts and give myself like another world to kind of process. And I also just wanted to be able to throw myself into something that wasn't what I was experiencing right then. When you're in the middle of quarantine and you're stuck in your house with your parents and you just graduated college, and by the way, that was super fun, but also it's just not where you're necessarily expecting to be, right? I was just like, gosh, you can't go outside, you can't do anything. Why don't I enjoy putting myself in this fantasy world where I can just sort of explore a lot of different concepts? That's one reason. Another reason why I decided to write my book is because I've always been really concerned about things in terms of like race and racial justice. So that's another big thing for me. And I've always experienced various degrees of discrimination or seen others experiencing that throughout my life, and it's something I've always wanted to be talking about and writing about. I just realized that there was no reason for me to wait. Like, there's no reason for me to just hold back and decide, oh, I don't think I have the right time. I realize there's no time like the present. So, if you're thinking about writing a book, you should just go for it. Then the big why for why I'm writing this is as well, I had just started writing for like maybe a month or two when the events of George Floyd took place. And obviously, if you don't know about that, you should like look it up and everything. But I feel like, especially at the time that I'm writing, or not writing, filming this, a lot of people know about the tragic events that took place and just the murder of George Floyd. And so thinking about that honestly put me out of commission for a little bit of time, because I was so sad about those events that it made me kind of wonder if me writing a book about racial justice in a YA fantasy novel context was going to do anything to help my country. I'm from the US, and like help my country and my people just realize that we really have to make a change. But so I felt discouraged at first, but later I realized, yes, like me and so many other people, it's reasons like this why we need to make our voices heard, because we have to find ways for people to communicate. And that's honestly the biggest why of me writing this book. For me, I'm a woman of faith, and I just think that being a person who, calls herself a Christian, one of the biggest things about Jesus is that he was always inclusive. It's so weird to me how there's so many people out there that try to say that, oh, I am a Christian, therefore insert judgment and hatred here. And I'm like, how does that make any sense? I don't know how many of you have ever read the Bible, but people who do actually read it, it's like everything about the character of Jesus Christ is so filled with love, inclusivity, empowerment, and like he would consistently go out of his way to make sure that people who were marginalized, so we're talking women, we're talking communities of color, communities that were not as high ranking in society, people with like a low socioeconomic status or who had a different ability status, he was like consistently bringing those people into the community, bringing them together, empowering them, encouraging them. So for me as a Christian, that's a really big part of what it means to practice my faith. I need to be part of these conversations to make sure that all people feel and know that they are heard and loved. That's just part of what I believe, and it's part of what I know it means to be a Christian. That's honestly like the biggest why for me writing this book. So on days when I was feeling sad and down and whatever, I knew that, hey, this message needs to be heard. This needs to be written, and people need to read this. And that really helped me to say, you know what, I don't feel great today, I don't feel whatever, but I believe in this, and I believe in this message, and so I'm going to keep writing. And I'm so glad that I did, and that I'm, in these editing stages now. I'm so excited about it, and it just feels great to know that there's a message that you believe in and that you really care about, and that you're able to help put something like that into the world. Yeah. The last thing I'll share is that I think in the areas of, race, ethnicity, gender, politics, justice, equity, and all of those things, one of the keys is communication. And that's something that I've realized and thought about a lot, especially during my college years. There have been so many people who I think more alike than they know, but because we are dealing with such challenging and sensitive issues, a lot of times people don't want to talk about them. I believe that communication is one of the most important things in healing a nation that's been broken apart by race and hate and all of these divisions that we create and that are in our history. Like history doesn't just get wiped away, and we're all the product of that history. Like I have slaves in my ancestry. Like that's not something I can just shrug my shoulders off and just go about my day with. It's just so important for people to have these conversations and to talk about these things, because otherwise, how are we going to understand each other and go forward? And so I wanted to write this book from the perspective of a girl of color, because I just want every person who reads it to either be able to identify with it, identify with, the concepts, with Arabella, that main character, with her herself, or that they can just understand more of what it means to be a human who is struggling with like being in an unjust society. So just being able to step into someone else's shoes, even just in a fantasy fiction world, for one moment, I think the more opportunities we take to empathize with others, the more we're going to be able to slowly change our world. Because as we all take those uncomfortable steps out of our own comfort zones, we are going to make actual progress. And that's something that Jesus Christ was definitely did in his everyday actions, and it's something that I am also committed to doing. And so, yeah, those are my whys. That's why I'm writing my book, and I hope that you can take this time to really reflect on your whys. Why are you writing your book? Because that will really, really propel you forward and give you a lot of motivation on, those challenging days where you're like, oh, can I even do this? Does anybody even care? Um, so yeah, if you like this content, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so you can see more. And I hope you're having a great day. Bye.